The following is an A-Team PR production.
Welcome to the Free Range Texan podcast. We're kind of an escape hatch for everyday life. We know today's world has issues. Maybe that's just all the more reason to spend some time. So saddle up with a bunch of Free Range Texans. Here's one now, our host, Michael Shawn.
Texan, episode 58. We have most assuredly blown the budget. First, I would like to say that our analytics are continuing to grow. And to that, we really want to take time to say thank you. We really love and appreciate our listeners. Our family continues to grow here, and now comes our guest, Danny Cadra. He's a singer, a songwriter, and recording artist. Our latest invite to be our guest here on the Free Range Texan. Danny and I have something in common. We were both traumatized at an early age with piano lessons. It's true. Well, enough about that for now. We'll talk later. We are seeing a lot of new listeners coming to our podcast, and for those folks, we want to make sure that you all are familiar with our Chief of Security here at A-Team PR Studio A, Foxy the Wonder Dog. How you like that? Well, a recent tour group, let me give you an example, was being showed around here and went out behind our studios where they planned to have a picnic. Well, as they began to get up and walk around under the pecan trees out there, it was quickly noticed that at each picnic table, the serving of pork and beans and hot dogs were left primarily untouched. But mysteriously, all of the onion rings had disappeared. Well, Foxy, when asked, pleaded absolutely innocent in true German Shepherd fashion. Michael Shawn's Campfire is a true tale from the West Texas desert. And so, episode 58 is primed for takeoff. I say we saddle up and get ready to ride. Better than a double meat jalapeno cheeseburger. Oh, yeah, right, Foxy. With onion rings. You're listening to the Free Range Texan podcast. Time now for another segment of the Free Range Talent File. Brought to you by A-Team PR, bringing a host of creative media production and public relations services to our exclusive list of clients. Maybe you could hire the A-Team. And now, here's the next segment of the Free Range Talent File. Well, here he is. Here's the guy that we were talking about earlier, Danny Cadra, singer, songwriter, recording artist, and West Texas boy all the way around. Danny, it's good to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. It's great to be on here.
You've got kind of an interesting start for your career. The first thing you did is went and joined the Marine Corps.
I guess you could go all the way back to when I was 5 years old when I was forced to take piano lessons. But, I played trumpet.
You were forced to take piano lessons.
Oh, yeah.
That's something you and I have in common.
Gosh. And was it your grandmother that forced you to do it?
No, it's my mom.
Well, I guess it was a group effort. It was like the parents saying, well, you're going to do this because grandmother's paying for it.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
But that's kind of where it all started for you, huh?
I will say this, about third, fourth grade, after Van Halen had been around for a while, I wanted to play guitar. And my parents were like, no, you're still playing piano. That's what you're doing. And then in seventh grade, I wound up playing the trumpet and did that for 17 years of my life.
Oh, man. You know what my mom told me? And I remember this plain as day, and I wasn't more than 5 or 6 years old at the time. And she sat me down at that piano, and I was crying. I didn't want to practice anymore. And she said, Michael, if you will learn this piano, you will be the life of the party wherever you go. Now that was her thinking, and I guess
that's an incentive, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? I've been going to parties ever since, and not once have I taken a piano.
Right.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Oh man,
how did the Marine Corps get into this deal?
Oh well, partying too much in college is where that really came from. And needing direction in my life. And so I joined the Marine Corps and wound up working on helicopters for 3.5 years. I guess long story short, I wound up missing music really badly, because I had been a music performance major on the trumpet at Texas Tech. Well, you said something kind of interesting in your bio on your website, that the Marine Corps was where you discovered you had real musical talent. I was an all-state trumpet player in high school, got a scholarship to Tech. So music was always kind of my life anyway. Yeah. But I had never thought about singing at all. Definitely never thought about, playing the guitar except for in my dreams, because that was just something I wanted to do since I was a kid. Well, and what happened was I wound up missing music, and I went to the band hall on base where what's called the Marine Forces Pacific Band there in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii is. And I went there to see if I could rent a trumpet out or check out a trumpet just to play one, because I missed playing it. And when I walked in the door there, sitting at the duty desk was this Marine that I had gone to Texas Tech band camp with in high school. Trumpet guy.
What are the odds?
So I wound up checking out a horn and practicing that thing for 2 or 3 months and auditioned for the band. And then I was in the Marine band there in Hawaii. But I wound up hearing that no one is singing harmonies to Brown Eyed Girl. Make a lighthearted gesture and make some friends, and I start singing backups. And the band officer for that, he goes, Corporal Cadra, now you're gonna sing now. And I said, oh, sir, I'm not a singer. He goes, you are now. And you don't say no to your Marine officer, And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm gonna sing. And he made me sing, and he forced me to sing all kinds of music, all kinds of genres, stuff that was not in my range.
Yeah, and you were stuck there in Hawaii with nothing else to do.
Let me tell you something. That's not really the ideal setting for a kid that's been raised in West Texas with wide open spaces. My goodness, by about my 2-year mark there, I'd done everything about 3 times, and it was just kind of boring.
Oh, rough assignment, man.
Yeah. I miss long drives where I could sit there and drive for 3 hours in one straight line and think about things.
You do that in Hawaii. You pass the same places a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you got out of the Marine Corps with an honorable discharge, so you must have been doing something right. And then you went to South Plains College.
So then I started singing all the stuff I wanted to sing that I loved, like Merle Haggard. He's the reason I wanted to sing, period, end of story.
I've had a lot of people tell me that about Merle.
Yes, sir. He's the greatest of all time in my book. But I started putting that guitar to my singing in, my barracks and everything. And that made me fall in love with trying to sing and play country music. So when I had gotten out, I checked out South Plains College, and it was just everything I could have ever imagined it to be that I ever wanted. You know what? You
don't know how many people have testified to that same thing on the Free Range Texan here. We have artists after artists, songwriters, recording artists that come here from all over the country to go to South Plains College because their program out there that they put you through and then create musicians and artists out of people that up until then were just dreaming about it. And I have had so many people tell me that it is such a jewel, yet you get very far out of West Texas and not a lot of people know about it.
It's so practical. And I can tell you that in the 2 years I was at South Plains, I learned more and learned how to do music in different, better ways in 2 years than I did in 3.5 at Texas Tech. And it's just mind blowing what that little school and what that commercial music school can do for people.
You went to Nashville and you spent some time in Nashville. Tell me about that experience.
Oh, gosh. I got there just in time for the recession to hit. That was in 2007.
Yeah.
But when you're in that mindset, especially, going to Nashville, you're really just chomping at the bit. There's a particular mindset that goes with that. And, oh, goodness, that town, if I could do that over again, the only thing I would even do in that town would just hook up with songwriting circles and do songwriter stuff.
Well, some of the greatest studios in the whole country are in Nashville as well.
Yes, sir.
And Lubbock, Texas is your hometown?
Yes, sir. That's where I live right now.
And that explains why when you got through with the Nashville experience and all that sort of thing, you came back to West Texas and you live in Lubbock.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've got a website for anyone that, after they listen to your music here that's coming up, anyone wants to maybe book you for a gig.
That's right.
It is Danny Cadra, and Cadra is spelled with a C, but it's pronounced like S, Cadra. Folks can go there and hear some more of your music and your availability for a gig or that sort of thing. They can catch up with you there.
Yes, sir.
Tell me the backstory on your song Heartburn.
Now, I co-wrote that with a friend of mine named Kevin Young.
Yeah.
And he's just a phenomenal lyricist. We were just messing around, driving in my truck and whatever when I had the idea for Heartburn, but your heart hurting is in love life kind of stuff, Now,
wait a minute, just a second. Do you realize there is nothing more country than a guy who says, I was just rolling around in my truck and this song came to me? Now, that's what you just said. It's a real deal then.
Oh, that happens hundreds of times. All these song ideas and just hundreds of them. That's the good thing about living in West Texas and driving down these long straight roads forever. You just sit there and think. And here comes a song idea out of nowhere.
Danny Cadra, it is good to have you on the Free Range Texan. We are so glad that you spent a little time with us. And something else we didn't bring up, you got that lovely daughter that lives with you. We were talking before we came on the show that she is the center of your life. And we're glad you two have each other. But
yes, sir.
Hey, bless you,
if
man.
They get on my website and they listen to that song, West Texas Panhandle Girl. I wrote that the day before she was born. The very end is about her. So.
All right. Also, we want to remind our listeners that there are pictures of Danny and lots more about his life and his music on our Free Range Texan blog. And there's a portal right there where you can listen to this podcast and interview as well. And all of that is at freerangetexan.net. Danny, thanks for coming on the show. Okay, man?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me. It sure was a pleasure.
And here it is, Heartburn, Danny Cadra on the Free Range Texan podcast.
She tears up the dance floors, backseats and divorce course. The cowboys in her rodeo can't help but play her game. An angel in blue jeans, her halo band with broken wings, her beauty draws them right into her flame. She'll light up their lives for the rain, singing right, then she'll leave them feeling on fire deep inside. They'll do their best to hold her, but their lessons surely learned. They'll wake up in the morning with a bad case of heartburn. I've sat here many happy hours as she chews them up and spits them out, and the line keeps growing longer to see who can ride for time. Till tonight she caught me unaware, staring at her lack of underwear. Then I knew she had me in her sights as the next cowboy in line. She'll light up my life for my 8-second ride, then she'll leave me feeling on fire deep inside. I'll do my best to hold her, but my lessons surely learned. I'll wake up in the morning with a bad case of heartburn. As I pour my second cup, been sitting at the IHOP, couldn't bear to wake her up. She's reaching across that pillow for the trophy that she earned. She'll find an empty pack of Rolaids and a bad case of heartburn. Cause I lit up her life for her race, second ride. Then I left her feeling on fire deep inside. She did her best to hold me, now her lessons finally learned. She'll wake up this morning with a heartache and a heartbreaking case of heartburn.
You've been listening to the Free Range Talent File. If you'd like more information about our guest, just go to our website at freerangetexan.net. Also, submissions to be interviewed on the Free Range Talent File should be sent to our website at freerangetexan.net. Hi, y'all. It's me. Just a quick reminder that the Midnight Express is back, providing great country music to broadcast stations and streaming to everybody else across our country and around the world on Boss Country Radio, a worldwide country music network. So you can join me weeknights at 10 p.m. Central here in the United States. Find out all the ways that you can listen at bosscountryradio.com.
cross country.
You're listening to the best little podcast in Texas, the Free Range Texan. Hello, I'm Michael Shawn, and welcome to our Campfire. It was the 1970s, somewhere in between the future and the past. The Big Bend Mountains in the far regions of West Texas had somehow managed to still be wilderness areas of Texas. Roy was a cowboy, which by then meant seasonal ranch work where you could get it. He had wintered in San Antonio, but had sat still, not on horseback, as long as he could stand it. It was clear in Roy's mind that his heart and his billfold, folded neatly in his hip pocket, needed replenishing. Roy had one good thing left going for him. It was a GMC pickup truck that seemed to still be quite reliable. As he left San Antonio, driving out to West Texas along Highway 90, he was tired and sleepy and had been driving most of the night. But it was not his intention to stop until he was near the cluster of cattle ranches that he figured probably needed him now. Highway 90 was a lonely place, especially once he went past Alpine. But it was in the miles ahead that Roy would obtain a unique introduction to a mystery that local believers and skeptics alike have never adequately explained. Roy kept his speed up on the lonesome highway, the darkness only pierced by the desert stars and the headlights of his pickup truck. After a while, on what seemed to be a road that would go on forever, Roy saw two lights appear in his rearview mirror. The glowing orbs floating a few feet above the ground appeared to be the front-end array of a large truck quickly about to overtake him in his vehicle. What he saw next happening behind him made his mind begin to struggle to find a sense of purpose to what his eyes were seeing. Somewhere well outside the city of Marfa, the lights began to zoom quickly and erratically across the desert. Roy knew there were stories about these lights. Sometimes they were attributed to atmospheric conditions and reflections of distant car lights. This might make sense, except they've been seeing these lights out there for well over 100 years. And mysterious though they may be, they also appear to play games. Roy had been driving his pickup truck for about 8 hours and had outdriven the coverage of most radio stations back in the day. It had been a while since he had seen another car on the road, except for the pair of lights that appeared in his rearview mirror. He glanced down at the speedometer to make sure that he wasn't speeding and relaxed when he saw he was only doing, less than 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. That wouldn't pique the interest of even the most jaded county sheriff. Roy continued driving with the light a comfortable distance behind him for several minutes when those same lights suddenly sped up and approached his truck. For a few seconds, he honestly thought he was about to get rear-ended. Before the impact occurred, though, however, the lights stopped only a few feet short of hitting his truck. Now he's doing about 60 miles an hour in the middle of an otherwise deserted highway. Roy thought it wasn't too much to ask for the courtesy of a little breathing room. So Roy tapped his brakes. It appeared that the vehicle behind him stayed close, too close. Annoyed now, Roy jammed hard on his brakes for a fraction of a second. To his amazement, the vehicle behind him stayed the exact same distance from his rear bumper. Roy decided to try a different approach. He floored the gas pedal, making the pickup shudder and lurch ahead. His speed crept up to 80 miles an hour and above, and the lights behind him acted in perfect unison, staying only a few feet behind his truck as it approached speeds Roy had never pushed his pickup to. Enough was enough. Roy took his boot off the gas and let the truck coast down to a sane speed. Then, in an instant, he stood on the brakes. His tires screeched and smoked, and the truck pitched and lurched and slid. The asphalt grabbed it and brought it to a stop on the Texas highway. The whole time, the lights stayed in exactly the same spot in his rear-view mirror. As the smoke cleared from his hot engine and the deafening silence of the Chihuahuan desert wrapped itself around him, something completely unexpected then occurred. Without a sound, the light shot out off the road to the right and fired across the desert like missiles. He craned his neck around, trying to visually follow those lights. He found himself thinking about the drivers taking off on what was surely a rough road. He thought it had to have been that, right? Roy was about to drive on when he thought he might check something. He put his truck into reverse and slowly began to back up. Maybe a couple of 100 feet, maybe 100 yards more. He checked the barbed wire fence line on either side of the road for a gate or a break or some kind of opening where the pursuer might have slipped through. But there was none. Roy began to feel pretty spooked, especially when off in the distance he could see those same lights moving swiftly, bouncing across the horizon. Roy had just witnessed what for hundreds of years the locals had long since named the Marfa Lights. I'm Michael Shawn. Thanks for joining us at our campfire. Adios, my friends. You never know what they're going to talk about around the campfire. You know, we have more and more people who say, yeah, I just listen for the campfire. Oh, we're just glad you listened. Episode 58 of the Free Range Texan podcast, where We, that's you and I, only have a few housekeeping items to finish up. Of course, we want to say a big thank you to Danny Cadra for dropping in on our free-range Texan talent file. Thanks a million, Danny. Would y'all listeners be so kind as to help us out with something? Wherever you live, on whatever platform or device you choose to listen to our free-range Texan podcast, including YouTube, it really helps if you subscribe to our podcast. It costs you nothing, but it makes a world of difference on our end. And for that, I want to say thanks in advance. It means a lot. Plus, we love to hear from you. That email address is there along with our blog on our website at freerangetexan.net. It's been pointed out I don't say that enough, and it's really true. One of the fun things we do here in the studio is actually pay attention to all of the mail. So those free-range Texan addresses there where you can email us are all listed there on freerangetexan.net. On the 1st of July, our special guest is going to be the remarkable Kenny Maines. We are really looking forward to that. Episode 59. That's released on the very first day of the month of July. With another of Michael Shawn's Campfires included in that as well. So, I guess I'll just say what I usually say right about now, and that is, Foxy, get in the pickup and take 'em home, sweetie pie.
Thank y'all for listening to the Free Range Texan podcast, produced at 18PR Studios, out yonder in West Texas, with our host, who's been voted the hardest working man in podcasting, Michael Shawn. Feedback or submissions to our program can be submitted on our website, freerangetexan.net. That's freerangetexan.net. This is Sweetie Pie, on behalf of Michael Shawn and the crew here in Studio A, where we're all looking forward to spending time with you on our next episode of the Free Range Texan podcast. Y'all come back now, you hear?
An 18PR production. End transmission.
That's all. Can we go now, Dad?